Hello Level 3 students. In this video, I'm going to be bringing you information about how to effectively do your assignments properly. Before we go into the question criteria, I'd like to map out some guidelines for you. Number one, as much as possible, you should have it at the back of your mind that the examiner is asking you questions in the business context, in the business environment context. So when you see the questions, bring it home, make it as relatable as possible, so what you can see in your environment. In that way, the questions are not abstract and you'll be able to answer it effectively. Number two, try as much as possible to do ample research, and then place your references in your assignments as well, because of plagiarism and all. And number three, as much as possible, make your assignment as original. Yeah, because the examiner would want to understand that you understand the business concept of the question. Okay, now to the questions. Category P4 says, choose, first of all, we're taking the question from Unit 29, Understanding Retailing. Okay, Category P4 says, choose a retailer like Tim Hortons and explore the barriers which the company is facing while entering the UAE market. Now, what is required for you in this assignment? You have to explain the government policies that act as a hurdle, okay, in an introduction, and then you explain international outlets and then relate it in terms of UAE market. In your assignment, it should include the legal issues that interfere with advertising and pricing of products, as well as the competitive nature of the market, etc. Also discuss the barriers of entries and explore the hurdles faced by new companies to start up, explore the hurdles faced by new companies like high cost of startups, obtaining license from the government, etc. Now, how do you go about answering this question? Like I said earlier, it always has to be in a relatable concept to you. So for my illustration, I'm going to be using Tim Hortons, okay? I'm going to be using Tim Hortons. Now, give a brief introduction about Tim Hortons, where it started, how it started in Canada, things like that, and then as well as when it entered into the UAE, okay, its competitors as well. Just a brief introduction about the history of Tim Hortons as a whole, okay, and then go on to discuss the legal issues which interfere with advertising and pricing of products. Now, in relation to Tim Hortons, it has it's in constant liaison with its lawyers, so that it does not violate this advertising and pricing products laws in the UAE, because there's a penalty. And then you go on to explain how the culture is involved in advertising and pricing as well. Culture, social status, the environment, because you don't want the pricing, Tim Hortons rather as a business, doesn't want the pricing advertisement ambiguous. You explain things like that in your assignment. You talk about the religion, the culture, the social status, etc. And also how Tim Hortons as a business understands the violation and penalty attributed with the brand impact if it violates these laws. Okay, now we're going to be talking about the competitive nature of the market. Now, in terms of product categories, okay, Tim Hortons has competitions, has made sure its product is as vast as possible, making sure it has premium coffee, espressos, base hot and cold specialty drinks as well. More elaboration is shown on the screen. Lattes, cappuccino, espressos, you include that in your assignment. And then now you go on to talk about the market share. Okay, you talk about how Tim Hortons, based on its annual report, has been a fast-growing coffee market in the region, how it's open 24 hours daily, how it encourages drive-thrus, takeout, how the environment is warm and relaxing. You know, that has been able to help it to increase its market share. And then you elaborate more on other factors like same-store sales, cost leadership. All the examples are highlighted on the screen. Now, what are the barriers of entry into the UAE market? Using Tim Hortons for the illustration as well, number one barrier could be because of the VAT law that was implemented in 2019. You know, you expatiate on the criteria of the VAT laws, the charges and the penalties attributed to a company if it does not if it does not file for the VAT as a service. Okay, then you go on to other examples like the issue with the Qatar. Like if as an international business, if you're in relation with you, Qatar in the UAE, that's a violation, that's a legal violation, and it also attracts penalties. You can also highlight that in your assignment. More elaboration is seen on the screen as well. Now, in terms of category M1, the question says that you'd have to explore the basic external factors which act as an outside force and affect a business goal. Now, what is required of you in this category? Here, you'd have to discuss briefly about the role and impact of external factors in form of social, legal, technological, etc., as well as talking about non-renewable source which affects the usage of resources mainly, and you have to mainly focus on non-renewable resource which affects the country. Then you go on to talk about the advantages and disadvantages and the business impact on the business as well, making sure your answers are tabulated in paragraphs and bullet points. Now, how do you go about this question? I'm going to use Carrefour for my illustration here. Give a brief description about operating a successful business like Carrefour, what is needed, then the factors that could affect this, like the social factor, which is social attitudes, people's behavior, and an example can be seen by how attitudes and shared beliefs about eating, how Carrefour only carries halal, or rather most of the products are halal because of the culture, cultural taboos, health work, etc. You could put that in your assignments as well. Examples, or rather a more elaborate example is shown on the screen. Then talk about the technology, how Carrefour has been able to use technology like using the automated scanners. Okay, it has moved from the manual scanners to using automated scanners, which has phased out manual product check. You could use examples like that, and then you do that for other factors as well. Now we're going to be talking about the retail format. Okay, now you talk about the different types of retail format: departmental stores, chain stores, discount houses, etc. And then you in a tabular form, you explain factory outlet and exclusive showroom, giving their advantages and benefits. Now, an example of a factory outlet could be Polo Ralph, Lauren, Adidas, etc. An advantage of a factory outlet could be goods are sold usually lesser in cost as compared to those sold in the store. While for a disadvantage, you can say it's always sells the latest styles and trends are not usually in the factory outlets. Okay, do the same thing as well for exclusive stores.